Long ago, in a land called Denmark, lived a king named Hrothgar. He was a great warrior who was admired by many. One day he decided to build an enormous hall. He brought in workmen from all over the world, and soon his immense noble hall was completed. "This is just the hall I need to rule and give everything I can to the beloved people of my kingdom. I shall name it Herod." Inside Herod, the king kept his promise to give gifts and treasures to his people. The hall was filled with music and singing. The people were thrilled, except for one, a demon living in the swamps nearby. His name was Grendel. He despised the people, the music, the singing, and the dancing. So in the night time, Grendel went to Herod and came upon the men who were then asleep. Full of wrath, Grendel grabbed 30 of the men and brought them back to his lair. He continued his outbreak every night for 12 years, claiming more and more victims, refusing to stop even for huge sums of gold. Soon the great Herod hall soon stood empty. Old and young alike were terrified as Grendel hunted them at night. The whole world heard of Grendel's wrath. When the news had reached a nearby kingdom called Geatland, a mighty warrior sprung into action. He was the bravest man alive, and his name was Beowulf. "Have 14 of the best warriors in my warship made ready to sail as soon as possible. I shall sail to Denmark to put a halt to this demon's destruction." Beowulf and his men sailed for 2 days until they reached the shores of Denmark. A guard on a horse approached them. "Who are you? You better tell me where you're from and what you're doing here, unless you want people to think you're spies." "We come from Geatland. Hygelac is our king, but we are on our way to see King Hrothgar. Please help us. We have heard of the evil monster that murders your people at night, and we want to help defeat this awful enemy and restore peace to the land." "I believe you when you say that you want to help us. Get your weapons and let's go. I'll show you the way. I'll leave some guards with your boat to keep it safe until it's time for you to sail back home." Beowulf and his men followed the guard and entered the great Herod hall. "These men have come across the sea from Geatland. They would like to speak with you, sire. They seem like worthy warriors to me, especially their leader, Beowulf, who looks like a true hero." "Hail, Hrothgar! I am a loyal subject and kinsman of King Hygelac, and I have earned respect in his lands. And even there I have heard of Grendel's evil deeds. Sailors talk about how great your hall stands empty at night. I have come here in hopes that my strength and bravery may help you. Many have seen me return from battle covered in the blood of my enemies. I have captured and killed monsters on land and in the sea, and have avenged and defended my people against enemies who got what they deserve. And now I ask for your permission, sire, to destroy Grendel." "Ah, Beowulf, I remember you when you were young. Your father was a good friend of mine. I have heard wonderful tales of you. God has sent you to save us from Grendel's horrors. I will reward you for your bravery. Many times men have come here and sat at my banquet table and claimed they would stop Grendel, and every time they would fail. Now it is your turn to sit at my table." The warrior sat down in the banquet table while a servant brought them drinks, and a minstrel sang and raised everyone's spirits. Meanwhile, sitting near the king's feet was a man named Unferth. He was jealous of Beowulf and his bravery. He wanted to be the one who earned the fame and glory of victory. "Are you the same Beowulf whose pride led him to battle Brecca in the open sea just to show you could win? There was a terrible storm and you fought for 7 nights, but in the end he came ashore as the victor. You may be brave, but it won't matter now. No one has lasted even 1 night against Grendel." "That's quite a tale you've told about me. I think the drinks have gone to your head. If you want to know the truth, Brecca and I had talked about having a swimming contest like that since we were young children. We swam holding swords to protect ourselves from the sea beasts. Neither of us could gain the lead. We swam next to each other for 5 nights until the rough sea split us apart. The storm awakened the creatures of the deep, and the sea monster pulled me down to the bottom, but my armor protected me. I was able to stab the beast with my sword and break free. The monsters kept attacking me. I drove them off again and again with my sword. I would not let them turn me into a feast at the bottom of the sea. I made sure that by morning they were washing up on the shore, and I made that stretch of the ocean safe for sailors. I had killed 9 sea monsters, and I was exhausted, but I was alive. I've never heard of you fight such a battle, Unferth. If you were really so brave and fierce, Grendel wouldn't still be killing everyone in Herod. He just goes on,
killing and feasting, but I will show him the power of the Geats, and then no one will be afraid to enter the hall in the morning."
King Hrothgar was overjoyed at Beowulf's speech. He knew help had truly arrived. He left Heorot with his royal guard, knowing Beowulf would protect it from Grendel. Soon enough, night fell. The monstrous Grendel stalked through the misty swamps, making his way to the great hall. He tore open the door, strode in, and turned towards Beowulf. The monster raised his terrible claw to strike, but Beowulf struck first, grabbing the monster's claw in his powerful hand. Grendel had never felt such strength in a man before, and for the first time, he was afraid. He tried to run, but Beowulf followed. A terrifying wail echoed through the hall. It was Grendel's cry. Grendel's strength was failing him. He was terribly wounded, and Beowulf had him firmly in his grip. Beowulf then drove the monster out of the hall and back into the swamps, where he died. Throughout the land, people repeated the story of Beowulf's strength and bravery. At last, Grendel had been defeated. Beowulf had saved us from evil and death. First, let us thank Almighty God for this sight. Now, Beowulf, I will love you as my own son. You will have everything that wealth can provide. In the past, I have given honor and riches to men who have achieved much less than you have. But your honor will live forever. Cheers to Beowulf! Unferth, who had been so boastful the day before, now sat silently. Though the great hall still stood, it was damaged from battle. Everyone began to help repair the damage done to the great hall and prepare it for a feast. And soon, wonderful new decorations hung from the walls. Everyone in Heorot was filled with the spirit of friendship. The feast was a grand one, and as evening fell, King Hrothgar headed home to sleep. The hall was guarded as usual. The men made their beds on the floor and slept with their shields and weapons nearby so that they could be ready for battle whenever it came. Meanwhile, deep within the swamp, Grendel's mother had been mourning her son. Driven by sorrow and rage, she crept into the great Heorot hall while people were sleeping, bursting in with terrifying strength. Men leapt to their feet and grabbed their shields and swords, but as soon as Grendel's mother realized she was discovered, she tried to escape. She grabbed one of the men, one of King Hrothgar's closest friends, and rushed back to the swamp. Beowulf wasn't present in the hall when Grendel's mother attacked, for he had been given a bed elsewhere. But when the news reached the devastated King Hrothgar, Beowulf was summoned.
"What's wrong, sire? Did you sleep well?"
Don't ask me that! Grendel's mother has abducted my good friend and trusted advisor, Aesir. Who knows where she is now and what she has done to him? She has come to avenge Grendel. I have heard tales from people who live near here. They say that Grendel and his mother stalk this land, and they live in a swamp near here, where the water burns at night. No man has ever managed to explore those foul waters. Even animals would rather turn to face their hunters than go there. Evil dwells there, and now only you, Beowulf, can end it. If you dare seek out this beast, I will reward you tremendously.
"Do not despair, King Hrothgar. It is better to avenge our friends than mourn for them. We are all going to die someday, so it is better for us to achieve glory before that happens. We will ride out and track down Grendel's mother."